Welcome back to Nightly Nonsense, where we make some sense out of the nonsense around us. Hey, we've been talking about this idea of intentionality in life, purposefully living life. We talked a whole bunch about intentionality, about words. I want to just challenge you tonight to think about intentionality in your thought process, right? In Philippians chapter 4, right? Starting in verse 8, it says, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever's true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things." Right? Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. Right? Again, I've said for years, said it I think on the last show, right? That here's how life works. Whatever you focus on is going to build attitude within you. Whatever your attitude is going to control your actions, right? So we know this step-by-step process. There really are no exceptions to the rule, right? When I choose to focus on good things, my attitude is going to be good. My actions are going to be good. Now, that does not mean perfect. It doesn't mean I'm going to get it right all the time, but it means that they're going to be good in nature, intentionally good in nature. How other people take that might be totally different, right? If I focus on needing to help my neighbor out because it's snowing like crazy, right? And my attitude is one of wanting to serve my neighbor, I'm going to go out, I'm going to shovel, their driveway, shovel their walkway. If they come out and say, "I didn't want you to do that," that doesn't mean that I did the wrong things, right? My focus was good, my attitude was good, my actions were good. I just didn't ask them. I just assumed that that's what they wanted, right? So again, sometimes we can have the right focus, the right attitude, the right actions, and we can still make people upset. But we are responsible for us. God judges the intentions of our hearts. Paul challenges people to think on lovely things, think on pure things, true things, godly things. Think on these things. In every given moment, you have an option to think before you talk, to think before you act. Whether you do that or not, that's a you and God thing. Sometimes we need life to slow down a little bit so that we can actually think. We're not just reacting. As a reactionist, you get in a lot of trouble when you just react to things. But if you can stop and if you can think, "I know this person, I know they love me," well, then I'm going to have an attitude of, "I know they love me." So what they're saying to me right now, what they're doing right now is coming out of they love me. They may not act like it might not seem like it, but I know they love me, right? Again, you can love somebody intensely and do wrong things. You can get there. But we need to look at situations and we need to think about things so that our attitude and our actions follow. But that's intentional in nature. You're not going to think about godly things if all you're doing is reading secular things, watching secular things, talking about secular things. You're going to get to godly thoughts when you're reading his word, when you're talking about his word, right? Moses wrote that, right, in Deuteronomy, right? Constantly, God was saying to them, think about these things, meditate on these things, tell your children and their children and their children, right? It'll go like, we need to talk about God, but we've decided that talking about God is only good testimonial in nature that we think will accomplish something. Sometimes good testimonial things in nature are, "Hey, you know what? I screwed this up." It's still a testimony. I screwed up. I messed this all up. And guess what? God still loves me. God still cares about me. God still wants me. God still will use me. God still, whatever it is, right? And so now what happens is people are thinking about that when they get into trouble or before they get into trouble. They're thinking about, "Hey, I just heard about this. I don't want to go down this road." Or I know somebody who went down this road and they're okay. I need to go talk to them. Think about what God does for us. On the front side, protecting us, taking care of us, loving on us, blessing us, giving us favor. In the middle of things, God walked me through it. God kept me safe during it, right? And on the backside, man, God cleaned up my mess for me. Took a long time, took a while, but God cleaned it up. And I focus on these things so that wherever I am, right? We all look at the story of the prodigal son, and we all think it'd be great if the prodigal son never, ever, ever left his father. Of course, that's the first choice. Should have thought about how great things were and how he wanted to be a part of this family and all of these things. But he didn't. He thought about himself and he was selfish. Right? His focus was on what he wanted. His attitude became arrogant, prideful, and I deserve these things. And then guess what? He ended up acting upon that, losing it all, being in a pig pen. And then now his thoughts went to who his father really was, who his father is, right? Who his father will be in the future. And his attitude became one of humble humility. I'm going to go back and I'm going to be like a servant in my father's house. Right? So then his actions followed. Same thing, the prodigal son's father. His focus was on wanting his son back. So he went out to the road, was looking for his son. One day he sees his son coming back. He runs to him. Why? Because his attitude was, I want my son back. That's where his focus had been. I want my son back. Then the actions follow and he's able to accept. In that same story, the older brother, right, hears about his brother coming back. And what was his focus on? All the bad that his brother had done, all the ways that he disrespected his father, all the ways that he had been disrespected and he had sacrificed. And his attitude became angry and frustrating in nature. And his actions, well, he refused to come to the party to celebrate the coming back of his son. The son that was lost and now found. How sad is that? When a brother won't celebrate another brother being found and coming back because his attitude and actions were poor. He's out in the field thinking about how bad his brother had been, instead of how great it was that his brother was back. He thought about himself, what he had never been given. No fatted calf for him. And then his attitude and his actions were bad. Ends up that the older brother equally is off track as the younger brother. Only he didn't run off and go spend all the money, but his actions were poor. So leave that for you. Chew on that. Talk to you next time. Nightly Nonsense.